Hi there and welcome to my channel. This is a series of videos that I'm currently doing and it's all about making a king size quilt from bedding sheets. So it's a whole pack of bedding sheets that you purchase like this. So it comes with a flat sheet, a fitted sheet and two pillows. The pillows are actually like pillow shams, so I may have to reduce them down. And the bag is coming in very handy for all of my to-do pieces. So I've got all of my sections all in here. So if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I will link them down in the description box down below so you can quickly catch up. So basically I have created my own paper piecing pattern, and then I've showed you how to do the paper piecing. I also showed you how to do the blocks, and I also, like right at the beginning, I showed you exactly like the fabric choices that I was using and like what the quilt's actually for. So in my last video I stopped right here. So this is one of my quilt blocks, and now we're going to put the blocks into rows and I'm going to show you how I do that. And then next part will be putting the quilt together, the quilt sandwich and the backing. I'm kind of like not looking forward to that, if I'm honest, because this is like a huge sheet, because I'm going to be using the flat sheet in order to do the backing of the quilt, and the fitted part of the sheet I actually cut up because that got included in these sections here. So I really am going to town with using all of this bedding pack up. So I guess we need to get right to it and get that sewing machine out. Say hello to the Faodail Sopranos. This is my sewing machine that I use, and we're going to set her all up. So I am going to put my 1/4 foot with guide on the machine. I always sew with that foot. It's very rarely I actually sew with the regular J foot, you know, the one with the black button on the side. In the machine's needle, I always sew with a 90/14 Microtex needle. My settings I always keep at exactly the same as the manufacturer settings. You know that this is manufacturer settings because basically anything that is grayed out is going to be the regular one that is set up as. So I'm just doing a regular straight stitch. So I love this machine because it's absolutely fantastic. It basically tells me what stitch I'm on and what foot to use. I know this says the J foot, this is the regular J foot, but I'm going to be using my 1/4 foot with guide. For my thread, I'm going to just use the regular just white polyester thread, and also a regular white polyester in my bobbin case. So I basically have 4 of these that make up one row, and to create the rows we're going to do exactly the same thing as what we did before. We're just going to create the rows going to the right. I always do them going to the right. I'm not quite sure why, but that's how I do it. So this is basically my row here, and then I'm just going to create this next section here because you put them into 4s to make them easier to work with. So I'm basically just going to put them right sides together like we did with the blocks, and then what I want to do is make sure that I get this as straight as possible. So this is the seam and seam, and I am just going to take a wonder clip and I am going to grip them 2 seams into place so they stay exactly where I want them to stay. So here we go, I have my wonder clips here, so I'm just going to nest, they call it nesting, a seam. So you're going to have one seam going one way and one seam going another way, and I'm just going to grab that wonder clip and I'm just going to stick it into place. Now I'm going to make sure that I line my ends up here. I'm just going to stick that into place. I'm going to get my next end over here, and I'm going to line all that up like so. So I've everybody gripped into place. Now I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and I am just going to stitch along this right here. Then I'll get my next section and I'll do exactly the same and create the row going to the right of me. Like, I do it to the right, you can do it like going down, you could do it going to the left. I always seem to do it to the right hand side. And here's that foot. It's a 1/4 foot with guide. Use this all the time. Use it like in place with that regular J-foot, as they call it. Anyway, I'm going to get this into the sewing machine, and I'm going to put the needle in the down position. Your needle really should be in a down position at all times, so when you stop and start, it's not going to move on you. I always keep it in that down position, and now we're going to sew on. Might get a bit tricky. I'm going to use that pivot button on my sewing machine, so every time I lift up on my presser foot, it automatically goes up and down. I don't have to keep on moving that at the back. So a great feature about this machine. So let's move on. And then just take these wonder clips out, because we obviously can't write over them. Keep going. Keep sewing. La, la, la. Keep going. So this is a whole series of videos. So if you've just stumbled across my videos, there is a whole series to this particular king size quilt. So I've just got my iron out and my little pressing board. I really should cover this. It's starting to look a little bit worn now. I do use it an awful lot. I have a pressing board on one side, and on the other side I have this Teflon coating. So it's got a Teflon side for when I want to do applique, as well as when I want to actually press. I should really do a tutorial on that. Let me know if you want to see that. Anyway, so this is the part where we've joined it together. So I'm just going to reverse it, and I'm just going to press these seams down. It just sets them all in. I don't know if you see, there's like so many seams because this has been paper pieced here. So many different pieces, not because it's been paper pieced. So there you go. That is pressed, and I always press it on the other side. I'm just gonna press this. Makes it look nice and clean and fresh. Don't know why I'm singing. There you go. Just press this. Now that is like the second row done. I'm going to do, there's 4 of these blocks. So here's this next one here, and then I'm just going to grab it again, and we're just going to nest these seams and just sew the other 2 together. You don't need to watch that again. I mean, I've just done it once. I think it's fairly straightforward. So I'll do this whole row and then show you how to get this row onto all your other rows. So here we go. I have attached all of this together, and now I want to attach it to my final row of stitching here, my final blocks. Now the easy way to do this is to do it in these 2 sections like we were doing before. So I'm going to marry up my first section here to my first section of that row that isn't attached to the rest of the quilt. Now I'm not going to attach it to all of these parts. I'm just going to attach it to this first seam here of the first block with so it's going to be on the second seam in basically, and then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine. I'm going to show you how I'm going to handle this. So I have that first seam all lined up, and the reason why I don't want to match my seams all the way down is because some of these fabrics have been probably cut on the bias, so I want to be careful because some of them may stretch in different ways, and I can kind of keep tabs on how it's stretching and stuff by not pinning all of them together, because I don't want to end up right at the end with a lot of overage. So just in case that happens, I'm gonna manage it one section at a time. So just gonna sew this down. Then I'll show you exactly what I mean. Just want to watch I don't get my hands in the way here. I'm giving you guys the best camera angle. it's very bulky. You have to keep manoeuvring everything out of the way. No, my hand's in the way. I do apologise. So basically, I'm going to come up to my next seam and I'm going to line it up here. And then I'm going to sew on. Oh, what's going on here? See, that's because I didn't really cut it too well. Here we go. I should have really trimmed these things. And get everybody lined up again like so. So I just take it bit by bit. And obviously we're doing this like right sides together. Of course we're doing it right sides together, and we're going to get our next seam. We'll line our next seam up and we're going to sew down. So it's really that simple. So I'm going to continue on sewing all of this seam together, and I'll meet you back here when I'm done. All that's left to do now is just press all them seams in place again, because I have put all the other sections into place. This is now the moment of truth, people. You're going to be able to see at last what this is going to look like. So I probably would have been better off to have done this on an ironing board. I would have had more space. I mean, I will have to do that anyway doing the next part, because the next part I'm going to have to get that bedding sheet out, that flat bedding sheet, and I'm going to have to do the quilt sandwich. I'm going to press all this down. I'm going to throw this on the bed. So you guys can take a look at it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to show this to you guys. You have to let me know what you think of it. Here we go. This is what it looks like so far. So this is just the quilt top. I still have to obviously do the quilt sandwich, which I'm going to do right next after this. But I just want to show you what it looks like on the bed. But then you can get a scope of what it actually looks like. I think I'm going to leave it like this. I'm not going to take it right to a king size. I quite like the overhang, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on both sides. And as you can see here, I've got a nice decent overhang on the side here of this part of the bed. And this is the overhang here. It's a pretty decent overhang, as you can see. So I don't think I'm going to do it any longer on each side. I'm quite happy about the way it looks. And you can see how it matches up with the curtains here, like with the quilt. And obviously the pillows don't look too good right now. I will be changing the pillows over to the teal ones that match the actual bedding. So the pillows are actually going to match up much better than what they do now. I'm trying to get the pictures in as well as the bedding so you can see it's all matchy-matchy. I'm really happy with this. Obviously I need to change them pillowcases. It just looks a little bit odd, but it looks awesome so far. So let's move on to the next stage. Whenever I baste a quilt, I always use these safety pins. I have a little bucket that I put them in so I can get them in and out really easily. And the good thing about these is they have this kind of bend, and I'll just put it on my tabletop just to show you a bit properly. Can you see they're not just like a regular safety pin? They've got this bend which allows you to get into the quilt easier. I really love these, and this is how I go about doing the basting of my quilt. So I'm going to do everything downstairs in my living room because that's where I have the space to do it. Please take a moment to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my next video. As you can see, I have some different clothes on because this is a different day. So I just want you to know that this is another tip for you. Don't try and do everything all in one day. If you're anything like me and you just want to get everything done, the problem with that is that you end up getting really tired and you start making mistakes. So don't try and do everything all in one day, but then don't leave it to like months and months and months before you actually do the next part of your quilt. So just leave it like a day at least and then go back to it, especially if you're feeling like a little bit tired. The next thing I'm going to do is press this flat sheet. So I am going to get it all unfolded and just press it. I'm not going to make it perfectly like flat. I am just going to press it so it looks fairly good. And on this sheet there's a like sheeny side and a flat side. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to put it sheeny side face like on the outside of the quilt. So yep, let's get this all ironed. So you're probably wondering why I'm not washing the sheets. Well, I don't wash any part of my quilt. I don't wash the piecing, any of the fabrics before I do my quilting on the front. I don't wash my batting and I don't wash my backing either, because at the end of the day I want it all to shrink at the same pace. And if you wash everything on your top section, then you should really wash your batting as well as your backing. Because this sheet was so big, I kept it folded in half and then I pressed the iron on both the layers, and now I'm going to open it out and then I'm going to press out that centre crease. So this is the biggest area that I have. It is my living room floor. So I am just going to spread out all of this king size quilt sheet, the backing, onto the floor. So I'm going to make sure that I have that sheeny side facing the floor because that's the side that I want to be on the outer side of my quilt. Now I'm going to get this masking tape and I'm going to stick it to the floor, but just be careful, do not have this on overnight. You are basically going to do this and you're going to do it right away. You're not going to leave it on your floor because it's probably, even though it's not that sticky, if you leave it over time it probably would do damage to your floor. So put it on, get the job done and take it off. So as you can see, I have this all taped to the floor, and this is not a true king size quilt that I've done. I'm not quite sure what size it is, but it's definitely not a king size. I still have yet to do a king size quilt. Anyway, I am going to put the batting on top of this. So here you go. Now I have the batting just laid nicely on top. And then because we've used that masking tape, it allows the backing of the fabric to stay in place. And now I'm going to put my quilt top on top of that. As you can see, I have quite a lot overage on all the sides, and you want that because as you're going to be quilting this quilt, you're going to be pushing it out slightly. So you always want your backing and your batting to be bigger than your quilt top. So I'm going to start pinning from the centre out. So I'm probably going to look at each of the centre pieces here, and I'm going to put a safety pin in every single centre piece there. From the centre, then work my way out. Now I have that all pinned and I've gained an extra helper. Of course I have, why wouldn't I? So every single centre portion here has its own safety pin. So that is how many I have put on this quilt. So now I'm ready to take this off the floor and to take it upstairs, and it's ready to be quilted. I'm going to be quilting this on my mid-arm, my Baby Lock Tiara mid-arm, and no, I've not been sponsored. I used that machine. So now I can scrunch up all of this quilt, take it upstairs and not worry that it's going to be messed up because it's all pinned into place and I have every confidence that it's going to be okay. And because this is a series of videos, you may want to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss my next video. And thank you so much for watching. Bye bye guys. How much I have over there, and what is going on with that? So guys, if you're wondering why I'm sat here with the seam ripper, it's because I attached this row to the wrong section. Makes me want to cry. Now we have to unpick all this out. You don't get to see that. You only saw this in the blooper reel because I showed you. She is totally wondering what I'm doing. Hey, Sophie. It's so hot today. Hey, Soph. So now I can literally scrunch all of this quilt up, take it upstairs and not worry that none of it is going to move out of place because it's all secured with my safety pin. Sophie!